Konnichiwa, Frank Kruger. How's it going, buddy? Live from Japan. Da-da-da.
Jameson, ogenki desu ka? You doing all right, buddy?
I'm doing great. I'm in some weird purple void. I don't know what's actually happening, but that's what's happening.
I think I have you beat because I am in beautiful Nagasaki, enjoying Japan on my little trip. Everything's going smoothly. The weather finally turned good. I'm in a good mood. There was some snow involved, some monkeys, some mud. So I'm happy to be in the nice, sunny, beautiful Nagasaki.
It's beautiful. I know it's morning there. It's a little bit late for me here, but it's good timing. It's like 6 p.m. here. But I'm excited that we were able to connect up. Frank Kruger, if you haven't listened to the podcast for a while, we have a long history of not missing a podcast. And Frank has an obsession with recording podcasts wherever he goes. I think you recorded a podcast from Russia, from Mongolia,
Mhm.
uh,
New Zealand.
New Zealand. I'm pretty sure I'm like, okay, Frank, we're just going to record some before I leave and then like we'll be
hmm
good. But nope.
Well, number one, I hate planning. So we would have to plan it and pre-record and have evergreen material. Just not my style. Number two, I like a challenge. Number three, as you said, it's just tradition. I will go through the most misery to keep this tradition alive.
Well, speaking of Japan and this tradition, I'm really excited because there's several things to talk about. We'll probably do multiple topics. This is going to be a random podcast because I have no idea what's
Ooh.
going on in Frank Kruger's world. But I do want to give a breakdown of the Nintendo Switch 2, which just had its big unveiling from our good friends at Nintendo, who are actually not too far from me here in Nintendo of America, and also not too far from you in Japan.
This is my favorite part of the podcast. James tells us about Nintendo hardware because I get to learn because I really don't keep up with this news, to be thoroughly honest. So I actually love hearing about this stuff from you. Now you have to remind me, James, is Nintendo from Kyoto or Osaka?
From Kyoto. But
Kyoto. Okay.
they they
So,
have head they have a headquarters in Osaka, and then the museum's in Kyoto. And the original Nintendo office is now a hotel in Kyoto that they turned,
oh,
and there's like a modern side and then a true to form, like classic. This is from the 1800s. It's like 1890 something. I want to say Nintendo
I
Wiki.
remember Nintendo used to make, what was it, like a shoe manufacturer or home appliance, something
Uh,
very not game console.
they were a card manufacturer. So
Hard.
they started with cards, and specifically the Hanafuda playing cards. I'm going to say that wrong. I
Mm, mm.
apologize. With Yamamuchi-san, is when it was founded in 1889 there. So yes. And then the
Awesome.
Nintendo of America headquarters is here in Redmond, Washington, right across the road from Microsoft.
Yeah, and I don't want to distract from the Nintendo news, but I gotta say, the fun part of going through Japan is seeing all the big industry and everything. Uh, we flew down to Nagasaki, but then took a bus and got to see like a little nice bus tour, get into the hotel and everything. Got to go by the big Sony fab here. I don't even know if it's big by Asian standards, but it's big for me. It's probably the second largest fab I've personally seen in my life.
Oh, wow.
So it's always fun to see that big industry here. Maybe next time I'll get a tour, but maybe I should try to sign up for a Nintendo tour. So, what is our beloved Nintendo doing now, James?
Well, I'm always excited when there's Nintendo news and new hardware news. I did have some MVPs last week come up and talk to me, and they're like, "You guys been talking about Apple a lot." So I'm like, well, it's just whatever Frank and I are talking about. There seems to be a lot of news. There's a lot of exciting new news that's going to be happening. We're recording on the 3rd. Tomorrow is Microsoft's 50th anniversary. I'm here in Redmond. I'm going to be attending the event. I'm going to be doing some recaps on my YouTubes and my socials. And I'm sure we'll talk about it when you're back because there's going to be a lot of new exciting stuff. So you have to wait a little bit longer for that as well. But yes, Nintendo Switch 2, it's official. It's happening, Frank. It is the successor to the Nintendo Switch. It has number 2 in the title. It's the first time Nintendo has ever in their history done a
Oh,
direct sequel to a console. So,
right. It's not the Super Switch. It's not the
nope.
Switch 64. It's
Nope.
not. I can't even keep that joke going. Interesting. Hmm. So is it one better or is it more than one better?
Well, so there's a lot of things with it. I think that it is, I would say, one plus better. So I do think they did better than one. So a few things, let's just get, here. One, first and foremost, pretty much 99% of the Nintendo Switch catalog is compatible with the Nintendo Switch 2. So you can play them. Just like PlayStation 4 or Xbox had like upgrade pass, like certain games they're going to be doing upgrades. Some will be like free, just hey, it works better and like higher resolution. They're also going to be upgrading games to like 4K and to 120 FIPS on it as well. So like Metroid and Zelda, they're all getting like upgrade editions. Like they don't have a price, but I'm imagining $10-20. So all the games are compatible, including physical and digital as well, which is great. So that your whole catalog will come over. So the Switch 2 is a little bit bigger. It has a 7.9-inch 1080p screen. That is double the pixels of the 720p screen. It is an LCD, so not an OLED, so that's okay, but it'll look gorgeous, I'm sure. The Joy-Cons have been upgraded, so the detachable Joy-Cons are magnetic now. And also, Frank, there is a mouse mode, so you can use the Joy-Cons as a mouse for games like Civilization, for example, or first-person shooters, which is kind of crazy to me. Go ahead.
We're getting back to the home computer, Nintendo home computer kind of system.
Yeah, totally.
Eventually, we'll be running Android apps. Probably.
It's got a microphone built in. They showed all sorts of like social chat features. You can join your friends. You can share your game with them. You can be playing different games. You can be playing the same game together. They have a webcam now. So there's games where you're interactive with webcam, kind of like the Kinect, if you can kind of remember that from back in the day.
That's different. I have to admit that is actually surprising since, I mean, this is a device. I know everyone uses it, but it's a device geared toward kids. So I'm surprised they actually put a webcam on it.
It is the one thing that I think is the most anti-Nintendo thing yet because of that, right? I mean, there's going to be tons of privacy controls and stuff, but it is going to be there. Now, that's an optional attachment. Optional attachment, but still the voice is built in. Voice is an attachment. It's built in to it. It has, like I said, 1080p screen, so games will be up-res there. If you plug it into your computer and dock it, it will do 4K 60 FPS out. And
that's pretty good.
Yeah, pretty good. And it will also do, they didn't talk about it, but I'm pretty sure that it will also be upscaling games as well because the dock has a fan, which means there must be circuitry inside of that dock to do something.
Who knows what? Something. It's probably just to keep the USB-C power chip cool because those things are. I imagine this at 1080p. I mean, a reason people don't do high res is it's literally more RAM, more power, more everything. You got to light up those pixels. So there's good reasons to keep it low def. They're getting a little warm in there, huh? That's what happens.
Yeah, and it's the same thickness of the current one. It's obviously a little bit bigger because of the screen is bigger. The Joy-Cons are bigger. What else is notable? There's 2 USB-C ports, so one on the bottom, one at the top. So if you're having it on a console or you want to plug the webcam in while it's docked, bingo bango. There's a new Mario Kart, and it's open world, so you can do normal circuits, but you can also explore the world with your friends, which is kind of cool.
Hold up. There's Grand Theft Mario Kart now. What does Mario do when he's not karting in a race?
They're always karting, but they're just exploring via the carts. So if you want to,
borrow someone else's cart?
No. Mario's always in his car. It's only cart. So when I was showing the trailer to Heather, she was like, "Oh, I'm down. I can get down with we can just explore and like drive around." She's like, "I like that mode." I was like, "Oh yeah, cool. I'm gonna buy this." I'm like, "I'm in, right?" Yeah, they showed a lot of like the motion controls, the mouse controls. There's, a new Pro controller that has like wireless and microphones and everything and all that stuff. I mean, pretty much it's the Switch plus plus. I feel like it is as a good successor. I love that games that are maybe coming out on Switch 1 will also be compatible, obviously, with Switch 2, but also getting upgraded. A few cool things that they did. Now, this is something coming to Switch 1. But they introduced 2 big features I think that's kind of cool when we talk about digital games. I'm a big physical game person, but the first is that you can now um basically loan your digital game out to a friend.
Gutsy, gutsy. Okay. People, users have been begging for this for years. I understood why the companies didn't want to do it because they're basically just chopping off money from
Yeah.
their income. Wow, that's pretty brave of them. So they relented and gave in to the users.
Yeah.
That's nice. I don't know.
Now, there's restrictions.
Seems a
Now
little
you have
weird.
to be like you have to be on the same family plan, so I can't just do it to
Ah,
you, right? And then the
okay.
first time, so what how the loan program works is basically like you are you are like removing it from your console, like you're ejecting it, and then you're gifting it to a friend. Now, the very first time you gift it to them, they have to be on the local same network.
Interesting. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
And then they only get it for 14 days and then it's returned to you. Just like if you went to Blockbuster, you got to return it,
Mm,
but it's automatic because it's digital, which is kind of nice.
yeah.
So that's really nice for families. I think
I
that's a
like it.
huge win. Yeah, great.
Yeah, is that getting like you probably read all the press, everyone's reaction to this stuff too. I mean, I would assume people are going nuts over that. Are they, or are they just kind of passe, like finally, hashtag finally?
I think everyone that has kids that I've talked to is like really excited because they're like, oh, I'm sick of buying 4 copies of this game. Um, And then there are people that are like you and me that are like, okay, like, how is it actually going to work? Can I like IP spoof, do, some crazy thing to like, share it with friends? I'd have to be on the same family plan, but I do think that's nice because there are games that I would buy for like Heather on her Switch, and then I'd have to buy it again for myself for us to play together. So there's that. Now, the other feature, though, that I think is even cooler is a feature that came from the DS and 3DS, the handheld, which is game sharing together locally. So what that means is if you and me are in the same room right now and I have Mario Kart, you do not have to buy Mario Kart to play the full game with me. It just shares it locally to your device and we play together. This was a DS feature. It was amazing. Not every game supported it. I don't know if every game's going to support it, but that is coming to the Switch. And what's crazy about this feature is that let's say I have Mario Kart, which is the new one for Switch 2, but you have a Switch 1, I can share it to your Switch 1 somehow. I have no idea how it works. Like it's freaking
Is it?
bananas.
Yeah. So is the other one just acting as a light client? Like it's not actually running the software; it's just getting a video feed and uploading the joystick inputs.
I
Cool. I like the
maybe
technology. It's again one of those Nintendo things where Nintendo's a lot like Apple. They like to try to bury the technology and just talk about the feature coming out. But
yeah.
that's pretty impressive if they're basically doing what remote gaming, Strata type stuff. Strata, is that the right word? Whatever. And the old game hosts and all that kind of stuff. They're sounds like they're doing something like that. Neat.
Yeah. It was cool. So I'm in. I'm all in. It comes out on June 5th. So I'm excited about that. So it's coming up. It's going to be,
Developer story, James. Can developers write apps for it?
yeah, of course. If you're a Switch developer, you can sign up for the Switch development and you're good to go. Yeah.
Okay. Is there an indie app store though? That's what I'm asking. Can
There,
Frank Krueger publish a game for the Switch?
yes. In fact, the one YouTube creator, I think I think his YouTube account is Modern Vintage Gamer. I'm pretty sure.
Okay.
He just came out with this video, which is like how the Switch turned him into a developer. He's like, I went from
Oh,
game hacker to game developer because of the
cool.
Nintendo Switch, basically.
A final question, can I vibe code a Nintendo Switch game?
Well, let's talk about that, Frank Kruger, because the second topic tonight, which was a big thing at MVP Summit, and I'm sure everyone's been talking about. It's all about. I've been vibe coding before vibe coding was vibe coding. I give into the code
Hipster.
all the time. So let's talk about vibe coding. So this is a Nintendo Switch and vibe coding thing at MVP Summit. My good friend Pierce Bogan, who I've worked with for 13 years from Xamarin to now, who's now lead of VS Code and GitHub Copilot. Um, we vibe coded a whole game in mono game.
Did you?
Yeah.
Mono
Yeah.
game? Still
Mono game.
kicking. God, I love mono game. I just want to rewind for everyone. Mono game is the open source version of what used to be XNA, one of Microsoft's best little game development libraries they've ever released.
And you can write mono game games that run on the Nintendo Switch.
Of course, because mono game games seem to run everywhere. those
They do.
Those things are everywhere. So what did you make? What did you make? Did you make Snakes? Did you make Pong? Did you make Grand Theft Auto?
Okay. The funny enough, of course, like we made a Snake game, but
Of course, it's always Snake.
well, so we thought about it. What the funny thing is, we started actually down the Unity route, but there's just so many dependencies. I'm like, let's just do a mono game. I think you can just draw on the screen. So it was really fascinating because Pierce has gone really deep down into this world. So there's a few things with GitHub Copilot or any of these AI assisted coding is there's a lot of these like rules and custom instructions and prompts that you can give it. So we had an idea for a game, this Snake game, and funnily enough, Pierce called it Corporate Nightmare. And it was a Snake clone where you are collecting things that bring you joy, like coffee and awards and working from home or like a holiday, but things that are terrible, like OKRs and meetings, they follow you and they try to capture your snake.
A little inside Hollywood or inside baseball, but I like it. I understand those are the fears and the things that occupy a lot of people's minds.
So
that's a little sad.
it was a lot of, so what was cool about it is that he ended up like creating this file kind of definition of outlining the game. He kind of actually had GitHub Copilot create the definition, like steps, like what would be the process of creating this game and going through this. And then you have these different prompts. I'd be like, step 1, like create the game scene, create, step 2, create the audio engine, the game input, and like draw things. So I kind of like stepped out everything. And what he ended up having it do is execute these steps in order. So it would go out and it would like, just start to execute on these steps and start to like do work in the background. So it was really neat. I mean, I don't think that he wrote a line of code at all. The vibing was good. There was a point where so the first thing is you do a mono game and like it just worked. It executed the commands, it installed the templates, it created the new game, and it just ran, which was the first thing. Like, because in agent mode, you give, and with the vibes, you just like go, right? And it just happens.
So for clarification, you didn't start from a template? You started from blank, or you started with a mono game template?
So we ended up starting with the mono game template, but the agent installed the template and ran the command to create the project and scaffold out said project.
Cool.
Really cool.
Okay. Yeah. That's neat. I think everyone's running into this next step. It's not just about coding, it's all the project management and all that. And I like that you did it the correct way. All these AIs, if you want to get the most bang for the buck, you really have to start high level and then dip down and then go into the low level steps. I think what we're doing is proving that waterfall was correct and agile was wrong.
Maybe. I don't know if I'm going to make that the title of this episode, or maybe.
Okay.
Well, I think you're right. Is like at the higher level, when I think of these custom instructions, how do I like my code orchestrated? How do I want you to generate the code AI? How do I want to prompt, like when I create a new component or I create a game object or I create something, like, how do I want those things to be generated? And you have these series of prompts and instructions that you're giving the AI agent that you sort of define. So you are becoming the instructor of this AI agent that is helping you generate code faster than ever. And I think once you kind of like switch that mentality where you sort of start to trust it a little bit more, you're reviewing the code sort of in real time that it's going. But in the case of Pierce, he just let it do its thing. So it created the template, it just puts a dot on the screen and it moves around. And like the crazy thing, I was like, there's no way, like your machine isn't even set up. And like it ran all the commands and did all the things to get all the mono game components installed. And I was like, okay, cool. This is great. And then he started to implement the things. So it started like doing infrastructure, created like a sound engine, a game input engine, a game loop. Like it started to do all these components. And we got to a point where by step 4, it's like, put the snake on the screen and let me move it around. And it was a
Mhm.
blank screen. And I was like, he's like, I can't figure it out. Nothing's happening. And
Bad vibes.
the vibes were off. The vibes were not good. And Pierce is like, I refuse to write code though. I'm not going to write any code. And this
Oh,
was
I
like,
love it. He was, yeah, he threw down the not the hammer, but whatever. Gauntlet.
the the gauntlet. So I said, can we look at the code? Is it okay if we take a peek at the code? I said,
Ah,
go to the main loop, right? So this is kind of where you start to say, okay, like, well, I'm an engineer. Let me take a look at this. And what we found out is that in the game loop, the very first if statement was if you press start, or sorry, if you hit space, start game.
they just forgot the classic title screen. You need your start screen for a game.
So
But they didn't print that out. Okay.
So I said, Pierce, tell it to put a start menu on the screen so you know how to do it. So then again, so now we're like, do it, right? And it's like, okay, I gotcha. Cool. I'm like, and it was cool because how Pierce approached it, he's like, he literally would go to the AI. He's like, I'm an idiot. I have no idea how to start the game. Make something that's super intuitive, so every single user knows how to start the game and get going, and make sure that like something is also there when the game is over and blah blah. And it's like, it like just did the thing, you know what I mean? And sure enough, it was like, and give it and display the title of the game, Corporate Nightmare, blah blah blah. And like sure enough, like boom, there it was. It was like so cool. Now, the other thing is I went off and I was like moderating some sessions at MVP Summit. I came back and I was like, Pierce, how are the vibes? And he's like, oh man, like we have it. Like there's little things that I can like, there's like, these things are following me. He's like, but can you generate some sprites for me?
Oh boy, we need some pixels aren't good enough, We need some artistry. I'm gonna step on some toes now, but we need some artistry.
Well, that's the next thing is like I've actually had Copilot like go and like put artwork and chefs and things like that, but I was like, I don't know anything about monogame sprite sheets. I think you need to like use some monogame thing. I said, Pierce, let's get these vibes back on track. Tell it in the custom instructions that you don't want to use any sprites. You only want to draw pixels on the screen. So reverse of what you said, we only want to go full-fledged drawn pixels. That's all I want to do. We got to ship this game, man.
See, nowadays you can do it. The whole reason sprites were invented was because that was dedicated hardware. In the same way we use GPUs today to draw 3D triangles, back in the day, you used sprites because they were hardware accelerated. It would do all the compositing for you. But nowadays, machines are so stupidly fast, it doesn't really matter. You could put an infinite loop for every pixel and it would still render out eventually. I do want to interrupt your story, though, a little bit, because I watch a lot of vibe coding on YouTube. I'm trying to stay up to date with the kids. And I think, gosh, aren't we lucky that when a no-code person actually does hit a problem. I applaud Pierce for having a requirement and sticking with it. But gosh, aren't we lucky that when we do hit a problem, we can look at the code and we can direct the AI like, oh, here's your fix. Please make it this way instead, because we can read the code. I honestly feel really bad for the no-code people, because when they hit that blank screen that should say hit the space bar to start the game, and all they see is a blank screen, they open the code, are not capable of grokking the code right away. It takes a lot to read that code. Then it gets into this long chat session of, no, it's still not working. Please do this. No, it's not working. These are the growing pains we're going to have with no-code solutions. Still not 100% convinced we're at no-code yet, but I think if you have any development skill at all, these are at least time savers to crank out this kind of stuff. I just wanted to put that out there that, gosh, aren't we lucky that we can still debug these things and get them fixed right away?
Oh, totally. Yeah. And I mean, I think that was like the nice thing about it, as I was watching and evolved over like 2 hours from like nothing to something that actually had scorekeeping and high scores and things like that. It was kind of cool to see how Pierce's mind worked, how my mind worked, how it kind of came together by instructing the AI to kind of get through this. Now we went from 0 to like full game in quotes, right? Is it something fully playable? Is this something that I'm going to ship to the store? No, but like, I'd want to get sprites. I want to do some other stuff, no, I mean, you could, I definitely want him to open source it and see it, or vibe code it again with me live just to see it and record it. But it was really neat because I think now one thing that many people don't know is that there is so much more power in Copilot, for example, all the context, the prompts, the information, images you can give it, the models, you can switch between different models based on what you're doing. You can bring custom models. And I think like when you give in to the thought of what part of the AI tool do I want to use in part of the coding development of it, that's where it becomes very, very fascinating. I was implementing an MCP server, as we were talking about MCPs before, with the new C# SDK, and I was writing an article. And the cool part is I had Copilot in this blog, and just in a GitHub code space where I was writing a blog, and then I had it in VS Code. And in that instance, what was really neat is I had Copilot like generate like an intro. I said, hey, I want you to generate this intro about MCPs. I want you to define it and do all this stuff and like spit out some awesome stuff, right? It's like, boom, here's this format it. But then I'm over on my code. I'm writing the MCP server. And it is, once I write code, I'm tabbing. I'm just tabbing along. It's filling in more information. I'm just like, wow, this is like so great. And it was so speedy. And I was just like, wow, you saved me so much time. And you added actually new cool functionality to the MCP that I wouldn't even thought of in like a second compared to me actually writing code. Now, I'm in the driver's seat, right? I'm deciding what I want, what I don't want. But I feel like it's night and day difference between even a month ago or 2 months ago, or definitely 6 months ago. And we did episodes about Copilot and all this stuff. But the thing is crazy. I mean, it's amazing,
Yeah.
pretty much.
I really want to talk about Monkey MCP. Because I think you did it right. Especially if you did what you just said and you actually did start with the README, I'm just going to repeat myself. The higher level you start, the better these things are going to work. So if you start with the README, then when it's generating code for you, it can actually consult your actual objectives and your prerequisites and all that stuff. I do have to admit, the first time I opened the README for Monkey MCP, it's like, this is a little wordy. I bet you James didn't type all of this.
No.
I know James. He likes to explain himself, but he's not usually this verbose. And then there was the classic AI stuff where it's like, I need to keep generating, but I don't know what else to generate. So it starts like writing out prerequisites and all the libraries it uses and all these things like, okay, this is trivial knowledge, but it's like, I need to generate something. Generating. And then there's like, so you built the Monkey MCP server, which I have to ask, because I did request that from you last week. Was it part of my request, or were you thinking about doing that the whole time?
No,
Because
it's part of your request.
oh, great, because I think this is the perfect example for an MCP server, a dead simple API. I highly recommend everyone go check out James's Monkey MCP.
Thanks.
Don't do it for the API. The API is silly, but do it for the learning experience to see how simple it is to set up these integrations with AIs. So if your company has a really nice API or something like that, build out one of these puppies so that the AIs can talk to it. I'm really happy you did this because I'm on vacation right now. I don't really have time to go read a bunch of docs, even though the docs are good. I don't really have time for that, but I can read code. I can read code very quickly. And so thank you, James, for writing some simple code I could quickly read and figure out where all these monkeys are, their latitudes and longitudes. It's very important information. But I will say, what is that Echo server doing in Monkey MCP? That reeks of a template, or the AI is just like, I need to keep generating, generate. Where'd
So
the Echo server come from?
So that was me writing my blog post, and I was writing an MCP server and the blog post at the same time. And I was writing the blog post, and I was like, I want to have the easiest like example of like how to set up a function. So I need to remove it from it, funnily enough. But yeah, it's in there for some
Okay, so that's
reason.
that's
Basically.
you. That's not just the AI going, we need more APIs. This monkey service is no good. We need more.
I think that did it commit this code? In this code, it's just an echo one, but it's funny because I was like recreating it from scratch for the blog post. And then it actually created a cool one, which is like reverse string. It started to do tons of like string manipulation
Right.
functions. And I was like,
Just
okay,
no,
actually,
stop.
that's kind of
Oh,
cool,
do you want?
actually.
Yeah. Well, it's fun. I'm traveling with a software developer friend, and we have great discussions about this agentic style of flow. It's tricky because like maybe we will start getting left pad MCP servers, like these
Yeah.
very basic primitive operations that are literally one line of code. Most of these orchestration apps, you can just inject code as a node and it'll, take in some data. You can write some Python or C# and spit out some more data. That's easy for programmers. But if someone doesn't know how to left pad something, or if someone doesn't know how to reverse a string, then I could see running a $5 a month MCP server. Gosh, the world's going to be terrible in the future. We're all doomed. I could see people running a left pad server. Should I start selling a left pad service?
Maybe you could. Yeah.
Just
If you want to.
stringoperations.ai.
All right,
And,
there you go.
1 cent for every string. I'll do whatever you want to it. That's my promise to you. 1 cent.
I think it is like a really nice sort of introductory way of looking at it. Yes, you are correct. I definitely had some silly code in there, but I'll remove that now that you remember the
No,
Echo one. That was from the sample repo. It's the one thing that they have. But I agree. Like, I do think that once the tools can talk, as they're talking to other tools, they might start to say, oh, actually, like I do need to do these string things, there's other things, and I can run these tools and do these things that are specific. And I think the other part that's really neat is that, you don't need to be calling APIs. You could literally have a bunch of sort of internal, a lot of companies have a lot of internal NuGet packages or things or processes that they need to run. You can expose these MCP. The other thing is, imagine you're a developer, you need to expose functionality to your end users, which are maybe internal people that are using desktop applications like Claude Desktop or other things like that can also connect to MCP servers. And I think in a world where there's more things talking to it like Copilot, Studio, and things like that, all these other things, low code solutions. Yeah, we as developers can kind of build these pieces of functionality that are crunching numbers and doing things and taking inputs and outputs and doing all sorts of things. And they can just run locally, but there is now, I'm pretty sure I can talk about it because I think it happened today.
Oh, it's checking his schedule, everyone.
I think I will
Making sure he doesn't get fired.
I will either cut this out or not cut it out. However, that being said, there is a GitHub repo called Remote MCP Functions, which is a way of running remote MCP servers using Azure Functions, which is cool because it automatically integrates with HTTPS, OAuth using EasyAuth or API management, and network isolation as well with VNets. And you can write them obviously in anything that supports Azure Functions to put MCPs up on there, which is cool. So that is I'm logged in with, it's all public, so it's there. So I'm sure they must have put it somewhere. I knew about it. But what we're seeing is, I think, this next evolution of security around MCP servers, which is what we talked about, what we want to do, especially when you need keys and things like that, and you want to make sure you're connecting to nice, safe things. So the whole world is sort of evolving around this. I don't know if this is the end all be all or if there'll be something else on it, but it is happening. Something is happening here.
We don't know. We just don't know. It's impossible to predict the future. We're just throwing a lot of stuff at fans at the moment. I was explaining the MCP architecture to my friend, and honestly, they were a little bit appalled that we're running all this code on people's machines because you decided to release Monkey MCP as a Docker container. Fine, It's a sandbox. It's technically safe, but we all know what the word technically means. It's safe until someone finds the next security hole in it. That's what it's actually safe. So it's still a little bit weird running all of this stuff on people's machines themselves. So I totally get Microsoft, also being a cloud provider, wanting to say just hit the server. From an engineering standpoint, it makes me a little bit sick. Okay, we're going to talk to a server, to talk to another server, to talk to another server. We're just redirecting around the planet to channel all this information in. But if you're in a security critical thing like defense or healthcare or something like that, where this stuff actually matters, they're going to be very happy to, keep all the executing code on a server that they control and don't have to worry about. Yeah.
Totally. And I will say this, and we'll wrap it up so you can get back into enjoying Japan, is in this journey, I got to talk to Chet and I got to talk on the .NET team, talk about some of the containerization. If you actually go into my CS project, I updated it 2 days ago because I ran this article. There's a few other articles out there about Dockerizing up MCPs for .NET. And I learned a lot because I'm on an ARM64 machine, and I was just normally running it with a single runtime identifier of Linux x64. And sure enough,
Right.
Docker's like, hey, this isn't great. So I learned that what's really cool, and I think this is a .NET 9 feature, I'm not sure, but there's a lot of things. It's super easy to do. So you just say in your properties, enable SDK container support, true. Now it's ready to be containerized. You give it a container registry. So my container registry, James Montemagno / Monkey MCP. You can give it a container family. So I am basically saying Alpine, which is the smallest, most tiny little thing. And then what's cool is you can specify multiple runtime identifiers. So I specified Linux x64 and Linux ARM64. Now what's really neat is you can do a .NET publish, and it will actually create multiple images, one for x64 and one for ARM60, or x64 and one for ARM64. But you can then do .NET publish, and then you can say, like, I think it's like -p container registry equals Docker IO, and or whatever other Docker
Mhm,
or whatever
mhm,
container registry
mhm.
you're pushing it to. And what it will do is it will bundle them into a fat binary, multiple, and then publish it up. And then what happens is, just like for iOS or these other things, it will only pull down the one that you need. So we can bundle them up together and then do it. So it's so seamless. And I was like, wow, this is crazy. You don't even have to run a Docker command. It's all .NET publish, which is crazy to me. It's so cool.
I love this because I had read through your MCP code because I wanted to read the MCP part, but I had left it as a footnote in the back of my head. Figure out how the heck James got this in a container, because either you had the AI generate a nice Docker file that did all this for you, which is honestly pretty easy. It's not rocket science to get all that done, but no one wants to do it. No one wants to do that stuff. So I am very happy to see it's literally 1, 2, 3, 4 lines of code, XML,
Yeah.
to create a container out of this. So I don't know. Did I just miss that news? I think Rich Landers used to work on this stuff all the time, and I just assumed he was knocking it out of the park, and he definitely did, or his team.
Yeah.
So it's fantastic to see this. I am curious. Sorry, I don't pay for much Docker stuff. I'm on the free plans for everything.
Yeah.
I'm curious how much
Same.
stuff I'm allowed to put up. But I serious people with serious businesses, I'm sure they know exactly how this all works. And 4 lines, can't beat that.
It's crazy. All right. Go back to Japan. There we go. We got
Okay.
Nintendo Switch, vibe coding, MCPs. It's the world. Frank, I know you'll be back one day to record back in America, but enjoy Japan while you're there.
Sadly.
It's going to be great. I'm excited for all your journeys.
Yeah, I don't really want to leave, but it'll happen at some point, and then we'll talk about Android or something. But until then, James, reporting live from Nagasaki, I'm Frank Kruger.
And I'm James Montemagno. Thanks for watching and listening. You gotta say peace.
Peace.